Perhaps you've heard of the game Sumatori Dreams before. You know, the game where you play as a blocky, colorful character who stumbles around trying to push several other similar characters out of the arena? Owing to the entertainment of the spectacle is the physics-based movement system, where no round is ever the same as the last. If you can imagine that there would be a medieval version of Sumatori Dreams, one complete with period-accurate weaponry, surprisingly deep fighting mechanics, and replete with the gore and dismemberment that you would expect from any piece of medieval content, and full of movie moments, you may be surprised to learn that there is, in fact, a game that fits this criteria. The game is called Half Sword, and no, it's not called that because you fight with half a sword, but rather because the half sword is actually a real fighting technique that is often used in-game, which leads me to my first point of this game. The controls in this game can be described as simple to understand, but hard to master. You move around just like you do in any other game, and you use your mouse to control what your character holds, and how he wields whatever is in his hands, whether that be some ordinary household item, sword and shield, or a massive pole hammer. When you start the game, you're given 3 options of how gory you want the game to be, with the first option, gentle, being absolutely no gore, which, as the name implies, has no blood or dismemberment. The middle, gruesome, having an intermediate level of gore, and by my own experience, is the most realistic. And the last option, grotesque, containing higher chances of dismemberment, which I find to be at times more comedic and immersion breaking. Moving past that screen, you are brought into the menu, in which you are given control of a shirtless peasant, or Willy as the community calls him, to begin playing in the Gauntlet mode, which is one of 2 modes currently available in the demo, with the other one being a free play mode. But before we get to there, I'm going to show you what this Gauntlet mode is all about. The character that you start out with is the lowest class possible, both in this game and in the virtual medieval society, as a beggar. So, before you can continue on as a knight in shining armor, you will have to play the first few rounds of this mode either in a 1v1 fistfight, a 4-way battle with a hodgepodge of items, or a 4-way knife fight. No matter which option you end up picking, all of these scenarios are very fun and are helpful in allowing you to understand how the basic movements work in this game. Like I said earlier, the movement shouldn't be any different from what you're familiar with, using WASD to move around. Where the unique aspect of Half Sword comes in, however, is the ability to control the outcome of each battle using your mouse, particularly the left and right buttons, which allow your character to either use his fists, grip items, grab opponents, strike, parry, and interfere with your opponent's attacks. If you're playing for the first time, you're probably going to find these first few rounds quite hilarious, considering the apparent jankiness as you desperately swing your character's arms left and right. The ineffectiveness of this so-called spamming, however, will be proven very evident when you enter your first boss fight, because not only does he wield an infinitely more dangerous weapon than you do, he also towers over your character. Chances are, you're probably going to find yourself back to square one at this stage. But if you somehow manage to survive your encounter with the giant, then you'll move on to the next stage, which now you become a simple peasant. Armed with some form of farming instrument, you repeat the same cycle as before until the next boss battle. Again, if you defeat him and you continue to upgrade your character, this results in gradually better clothing, armor, and weaponry, which ultimately culminates as a literal knight in shining armor. If at any stage your character is killed during the battle, there is a chance that he enters into the abyss, where it appears he tries to redeem himself or something like that. But basically, you're dropped into this foggy arena with no apparent boundary, and you walk until you get a random drop of armor and weapons to fight single or multiple combatants that come out of the fog. The premise of the Abyss level is essentially the same as the Gauntlet mode, but you never select the type of fight that you want. It just comes out of nowhere, which I found to be more exciting to play because you really never know if the weapon you have is going to be effective against whoever is coming out of the fog. And that pretty much is what Gauntlet mode is about. Now, the other game mode, Free Play, is for those of you that would rather not progress slowly up through the ranks if you just want to jump in and play as whatever rank you want. This is the game mode for you. So, after you click on the Free Play button, you have full access to any rank that you want, and it's in this where you can see the surprising amount of diversity in weapons, armor, and playstyles that you can develop with each rank. I'll tell you, my most favorite weapon in the entire game is the Warhammer, but especially the two-handed variant. No matter how armored any other character is, you always have the opportunity to land a deadly headshot, and every time you do, is a satisfying result. As far as each of the scenarios go, the ones that you can play as the first few ranks allow you to either fistfight with only one other opponent, participate in a spoilance, which is basically a battle royale style fight where you scramble to pick up some object as your weapon, or carnage, which is a staple scenario that is present in every rank. Now, just speaking from my experience, Free Play is where I put most of my hours in Half Sword because I initially started playing this game as the full-plated knight, in which you have access to the Brave Stand scenario, where it's you versus 4 brigands of varying ranks. However, in the past few weeks, I've slowly realized that playing as the common foot soldier with either the longsword or warhammer yields the most satisfying action. That's not to say that the other weapons are bad, because if you want a legit bloodbath, then play as any character with the giant axe and set the gore settings to the highest possible and see what happens. And based on the footage that you've been seeing, you're probably saying to yourself that this game is home to a lot of movie-like moments. And if that's what you were thinking, I would say that you're absolutely right. Because every time you play this game, there's almost a 99% chance that you're going to experience a movie moment. Let me give you an example of one of my own. So I was playing as a knight in a small buhurt, which is basically a team deathmatch, and during the fight, both of my teammates got eliminated, and my character was gruesomely crippled. If I remember correctly, he was missing a hand or an arm and barely wielding the tiny short sword against the other fully armored opponent. It appeared that I was going to lose. Somehow, I managed to force the final enemy off to the edge, pinned him onto the wooden beams at the edge of the map, and forced him out with many kicks to take the victory. And I wouldn't say that luck is necessary to experience such moments, because it's also your ability that can lead to very satisfying moments in this game, such as switching to the half-sword position, where one hand holds the blade of the sword, while the other remains on the hilt. This allows you to block or use the hilt as blunt force to knock your opponent off balance. This doesn't only apply to long swords, as you can do this with the aforementioned giant axe, warhammer, and short swords. Simply put, you're not going to run out of new things to try. And if you're a beginner playing this game, you might find yourself swinging wildly left to right, and one feature that I found to be very helpful for myself when I started playing was the slow motion, which can be activated with F, and it's basically bullet time. It's a small feature to be talking about, but I think that new players would benefit greatly from using that to understand how to make precise movements for the most satisfying duels. Another feature that I personally appreciate is the camera mode, and for those of you who've played Red Dead Redemption 2 or any other game with a robust camera system, you'll probably also appreciate this feature as well. Let's just say, the thumbnail of this video would not be possible without this camera mode, and for a demo product, it's really good and easy to use. You wouldn't believe how many dramatic and silly images that I've taken using this tool. And for this point, some of you are probably going to think that I am absolutely deranged, but can we not forget about the insanely detailed gore system in this game? I don't think I can remember a game in recent time that has this kind of detail in not only the gore effects that add to the immersion of this game, but also the ragdoll system that truly makes every hit feel so visceral in this game. While I'm on this topic, I also have to talk about the sound design because it is amazing. If you were to listen to all of the combatants fighting one another in the Small Boo Hurt or the Carnage scenario, I'm pretty sure you could pass off the noises as Fighting Knights ASMR. So for this game, I've clocked in about 34 hours, and this is one of those games that I always play whenever I'm not in the mood to play any other game. No matter which scenario or how you choose to play the game, whether you're trying to survive the gauntlet or experimenting with weapon choices, each round always progresses really quick, so you're never stuck in one place for too long. And if you allow yourself to learn how to utilize your mouse movements for accurate hits, you certainly could pour in much more time than I have for Half Sword. As mentioned earlier, this game is free on Steam as a demo, and I would strongly recommend you to try this game out, as there is a deep level of mastery to the game that lies beneath its apparent silly exterior.